All right, let's dive into something that I think pretty much everyone feels at some point. That slow, creeping disappearance of just spontaneous joy. We're going to talk about a framework called the Z model, and it's a really powerful way to understand why that feeling of effortless ease can suddenly feel so far away.
I mean, really think back. Remember being a kid? That feeling of just getting completely lost in some game, with no goal, no deadline, no worries at all? For so many of us, that state of just easy, simple joy, it just kind of fades. So what happened? Where did it actually go?
It's not like it happens overnight. It's more of a slow, creeping pressure that builds up over the years. It's the weight of expectations, the shadow of always comparing yourself to others, the constant demand to perform, and all of it just makes it harder and harder to get back to that simple state of ease we used to know so well. To really get our heads around this, we need a name for it. And that's where the Z model comes in. Think of Z as the official name for this invisible force, this joy blocker that builds up in our minds. It's an amazing tool for diagnosing what's really going on inside.
So what is Z exactly? Well, the formal definition is the cumulative evaluative load on our system. I know that sounds super academic, but it's actually really simple. All it means is the total weight of all the judgment and evaluation we carry around with us, both from the outside world and, maybe even more, from ourselves. But here's the thing, this Z load isn't just one giant blob of pressure. The model is really smart about this. It breaks it down into 3 totally distinct parts, and each one makes the problem worse in its own unique way.
Okay, first up, we've got ZAC, which is the accumulated load. Think of this one as the slow burn. It's the pressure that's been building up your entire life, from having every minute of your childhood scheduled to learning that your self-worth is tied to your achievements. This is the very foundation of the whole Z load.
Next is Z-shift. And this one's a fascinating paradox. This is what happens when you decide, okay, I want to feel that joy again. So what do? You start checking for it. Am I happy now? Am I having fun yet? The very act of looking for the feeling pushes it away. It's like trying to see something in your peripheral vision. The moment you turn to look at it, it's gone.
And finally, there's ZCTAX, the contextual load. This is all about the pressure of the here and now. It's triggered by what's going on around you, like being timed, getting a rating, or even just knowing someone is watching you. It's that intense, in-the-moment pressure to perform. So if this giant pile of Z load is so bad for us, why is it so incredibly hard to shake off? This brings us to a really surprising and honestly crucial part of the model, something called the maturity trap. Let's just ask the question, right? Why does this high-pressure, constantly judging state of mind so often feel mature, responsible? Why does it feel like this is just what it means to be a competent, functioning adult? Well, here's the trap. Our brains actually give us these tiny little micro-rewards for staying in that high-pressure state. It makes us feel competent, serious, like we've got everything under control. But what happens when we try to relax, to lower that load? Our brain starts sending out these little alarm bells. We start to feel silly or embarrassed, or we think what we're doing isn't serious enough. The system literally protects itself by convincing us that pressure is good and relaxation is a waste of time. Okay, so how do we get out of this trap? The model doesn't just point out the problem, it actually offers a solution. It's called the Z reduction task, and it's basically a set of mental exercises designed to break the habits that keep our Z load so high. It has 3 really clear goals. First, you have to interrupt the constant monitoring, that little voice in your head asking, am I doing this right? Second, you have to break the optimization habit, that need to make every single moment productive or goal-oriented. And third, you have to prevent what's called narrative capture, which is just a fancy way of saying, be in the moment without already thinking about how you're going to tell the story or post the picture later. So what does this actually look like? Well, it looks a whole lot like that spontaneous, unstructured play we talked about at the beginning. It's all about exploring something just for the heck of it, with no goal and no need for it to be good. It's about rediscovering the joy of doing something for no reason at all.
This whole model really points to a huge shift in how we should probably think about our own well-being. It suggests we should stop just fighting fires, dealing with negative feelings only when they show up, and instead we should focus on changing the underlying conditions that create them in the first place.
And this right here is the biggest takeaway. Instead of just focusing on reducing suffering, which is often just a symptom, this model tells us to focus on reducing our Z load. Because when you lower the total pressure on your system, suffering is way less likely to even show up. You actually reopen the door to that feeling of ease.
Let's end on this one powerful idea from the source material. Suffering is simply how that load becomes consciously felt. That just reframes everything, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe the bad feelings aren't the problem themselves, but are just the alarm bell telling us our whole system is overloaded. And the real task then is to finally learn how to lighten that load.